I'm Terri Milligan. I'm a professional chef and cooking teacher located in Wisconsin. My husband and I, for the past 20 years, have owned a restaurant called the Inn at Kristofer's, located in Door County, Wisconsin. And if you're not familiar with Door County, we're the thumb of the state. So if you look at Wisconsin and you see that little piece going up, that's Door County, with about 250 miles of beaches and waterfront. So it's a beautiful area known as the Cape Cod of the Midwest. What I'm going to do today is teach you how to make meringues. And what I like to do in my classes is to go one step further and show you, if you want to be more like a professional chef, what you can do to just go that one step further to make your things look like you've just walked out of a professional kitchen. So what I'm going to show you how to do is make basic meringues and make them so they're nice and white and crispy. But then if you want to present them just that one notch higher, we're going to show you how to make those meringues into swans. And they're going to have beautiful heads, bodies, and a little pool of strawberry sauce to swim in. Now meringues have a couple of things that you've got to be careful with. One, you want to make sure your egg whites are at room temperature. So we've got 6 egg whites that are at room temperature, and if you're unfamiliar with using egg whites, we always use large eggs. Large eggs are usually what's called for in most recipes. 8 large egg whites usually makes a cup. So 6 is going to be about 3/4 of a cup of egg whites. Then we're going to have some sugar, and this is extra fine sugar. Now I'm going to start by putting my egg whites in my mixer. And with that, I'm going to add my cream of tartar. And that's just about a pinch. I'd say about a 1/4 teaspoon, but a nice generous pinch of cream of tartar. Now we're going to start whipping these, and you don't want to put your sugar in until the egg whites are almost to their peak. If you put the sugar in too soon, you're going to find that your eggs and your meringues are a little too soft to pipe. So we want to make sure these are really nice and frothy. I didn't add my sugar though until right at the very end, and then I let it whip for about 1.5 to 2 minutes just to incorporate that sugar. Because it's extra fine, it's going to meld into those egg whites fairly quickly. While these were beating, I also preheated my oven. If you're going to use a gas oven, preheat it to about 225. If you're going to use an electric oven, preheat it to about 250. Now the difference is, in the gas oven, what we're going to actually do is make the meringues, let them bake for about 35 minutes, then actually turn off the oven and walk away for about 8 hours. That's going to dry out our meringues, and they're going to be perfectly crisp. And that's because in a gas oven, you've got a little bit of heat always coming through because you have the flame from the gas. Now if you're using electric, it's a little different. You're going to have a little higher heat, and you're going to cook them in the oven for about 45 minutes. Check them, and then if they're not still tacky, go for about another ½ hour. You can still just keep checking them. And again, after they're done, I still just turn off the oven, and I'd let them sit in that electric oven for about 2 or 3 hours, and that just the heat that's in there will help draw out any moisture, and your meringues will be crisp. You also want to make sure you don't do these on a really humid day. The humidity is going to really affect the way your meringues turn out. So your mom might have told you once, don't make meringues when it's raining out, and that's true, or when it's really hot. July is not the time I serve these at my restaurant. So what I have here is a cookie sheet. I put a little bit of parchment paper on here. If you don't have parchment paper, you might also use something called a silk-flat mat, and these are baking mats. You'll notice that here in my restaurant I have some young men who are not very kind to my silk-flat mat. So try not to be unkind to your mat. These are really great. You can keep them for years. All you have to do is wash them off, and it's like a reusable parchment paper, but don't have 20-year-old guys doing this to them. So we've got our parchment paper lined baking sheet, and I've actually got 2 because I told you I was going to show you how to make swans. So we need swan heads on one and swan bodies on the other, because the heads are going to take a lot less time than the bodies. Now if you're not real good at free-form piping, you can make a little template. This I just made out of a little bit of parchment paper. It's just an oval. Then I put it on my sheet pan, and I made 6 little indentations with a pen and created a little template. And that just makes it easier for you to pipe if you're not good at doing these. After, again, 20 to 30 years, you kind of get the hang of it. But if it's your first time, I'd do a template. And now for the swan heads, we're going to use this other pan. Now here's a trick that I like to do for putting your meringue into a piping bag. I use disposable bags. Now these bags are great. You can get them at any party store, Michael's, Joanne Fabrics, it's now Joann's, has them. But they're disposable, you don't have to worry about cleaning them. And sometimes this meringue can get kind of sticky. So we've got our meringue ready to go into our pastry bags. But I can't find my scissors, just a moment. Oh, okay. So I've got my meringue ready to go in my pastry bags. I've got 2 tips. I have a star tip, and I have just a regular kind of round tip that's kind of small. The star tip is going to be for our bodies. The little smaller tip that's just a plain kind of circle tip is going to be for the heads. The other thing I've got is something for my beaks. All swans need beaks. So we've got some almonds, just slivered almonds, or you can use a blanched almond that's sliced, but those are going to be my swan heads. Now to pipe my meringues, I'm going to just cut this, a little portion out. You don't want to make sure you don't go too far because you want to make sure this tip fits in here. Tip goes in all the way to the bottom, and you've got your pastry bag ready. Now I've got 2 glasses, and you're wondering, why does she have 2 glasses? Well, you can get holders that hold pastry bags, but if you've got 2 glasses, all you got to do is put those in there, and you're all set. And that helps you get a little bit more control over the pastry, over the bags. These pastry bags are great too for doing any kind of cakes. And you're piping a cookie that has a cookie batter that needs to get piped. They're great. So we're going to put our meringue into our pastry bags. You're going to put about 3/4 of the meringue into the one with the bigger star tip because the bodies are going to take more of your meringue than the heads. Now these are also great because you can make these ahead of time and store them in a Tupperware container at room temperature. You never want to refrigerate them, but you can store them after they're cooked and store them at out of the refrigerator for up to a week, really, as long as they're in a cool place. Again, out of the heat, out of any sunlight. So you can make them ahead and have them all ready for when your guests come. We're going to fill these swans with a scoop of French vanilla ice cream. You could also put just regular whipped cream in them if you'd like. So I've got my swan body templates. Now when you work with a pastry bag, you want to make sure that you always have kind of the palm of your hand on the pastry bag and you're pressing down. You don't want to go like this, you lose control. So always up in the palm, get it very nice and tight, do a slight twist, and you're ready to go. Then you're going to start going around your template, and you're going to build your swan body about 3 layers up. Now for our swan heads, we're going to use our other pastry bag, just a small tip that is just a circle. It doesn't have any star elements on it. And we're going to do kind of an elongated backwards S. That's the best way for me to kind of describe it. And you're going to make a dot that's a little thicker for the head and then do a swoop down. So you can see I'm making kind of a larger, about a dime size piece of meringue, going a little further, swooping down, and it's again like an elongated S that's backwards. The thing we want to put in our swans is their beaks. So I have here some slivered almonds. You can also use pepitas, which are hulled pumpkin seeds. but this makes a nice beak. And you just pop the little almond right into the head, and you've got your beak. Now we're going to plate our swan. So I've got a nice dessert plate that I've selected. I'm going to take one of my bodies. We're going to put it in the center of our dessert plate. We're going to put some sauce around this. Now this is my strawberry puree made with just strawberries, a little bit of sugar to taste, and if you want a dash of Grand Marnier, about a half teaspoon of Grand Marnier if you want to get a little extra flavor in there. And orange and strawberries always goes nicely. You can do raspberry too, but then you're going to have to strain it because you've got to get the seeds out. So strawberry is always the easiest. And I do it in a blender or in a food processor. Now this is creme anglaise. This is a custard sauce that's made just slightly thinner. You could probably find lots of recipes on the internet for a creme anglaise sauce. Very easy to make. You make it on top of the stove with just half and half, some eggs and a little sugar. Now, the hard part, you need a toothpick or a shish kebab skewer. You're going to take the tip and you're going to very carefully go through the center and create hearts. So there you've got your lovely bed of strawberry sauce that your swan's going to be sitting in. Scoop of vanilla ice cream right in the center. Use my knife here to scoop it out there. So we've got a nice scoop of vanilla ice cream. This is a French vanilla ice cream with a little vanilla bean in it. Then we're going to put our swan head in. So I'm going to pick a head. I usually take just a tad off the bottom because sometimes they're a little too swirled to go in easily. We're going to put that into the ice cream at just a slight angle. And then I'm going to get a little bit of whipped cream. And I've just got some whipped cream that I whip with a little powdered sugar, confectionery sugar to taste. Confectionery sugar has a little cornstarch in it, so it makes it a little bit more stable. And we're going to make a little tail. And then I've got a couple of little strawberries here. I'm just going to cut this in half. Oops, we're going to just cut this strawberry in half. And that's going to be my tail. And a little powdered sugar at the end. So our swan is completed. We've got a beautiful swan meringue body, a little head, our nice beak made out of a slivered almond, little whipped cream for its tail, and a little fresh strawberries. You could use some raspberries if you want. And our strawberry puree with creme anglaise. The little dusting of powdered sugar is just a little added touch to it, and it's restaurant quality for your home. Hope you can try this at home. Thanks for joining me.